Welcome to All Things Spiritual. This is me, Dr. Tamanna C, a psychic karma coach and an author. And every episode, I bring to you an array of the most frequently thought or asked questions, all about spirituality, all in the realm of energy, relationships, karma, consciousness, and all things spiritual. As I move into yet another episode of answering all the questions sent by the audience, I am going to request you to subscribe to my channel so that every time I upload a video, you will get notified. So, diving deep into the first question for today, why do I feel spiritually lost even though I'm doing everything right? Because spiritual growth is not linear. And doing everything right is a concept that belongs to religion, not spirituality. Here's what actually happening. When you feel most lost, it usually means you've outgrown the version of yourself that you've been living as. The old identity is dissolving. The new one hasn't arrived yet. This in between space, this void, is called the dark night of the soul. And it is not a punishment, it is a sacred transition. Every great spiritual teacher in the history went through this. Buddha, Jesus. Your dark night is not the evidence of failure, it is the evidence of expansion. And what you need to do about it? You need to stop fixing it. You need to sit, you need to journal, you need to be still. And the answers that you're looking for will not come from doing more. They will come from finally being quiet enough to hear the voice of your soul. Let me tell you, this feeling of being lost is not because you're actually lost. You're in between chapters. And the next chapter is bigger than anything that you've lived so far. So, this feeling of being lost is actually your resting space. Do not take it as a punishment. Do not take it as an isolation. Take it as the time before you start the next journey of your life. What is the difference between the soul, the spirit, and the higher self? These three are related, but they are not the same. And let me break it down for you simply. The soul is your individual essence. It is a unique fingerprint of who you are across all your lifetimes. Your soul carries your karma, your lessons, your memories, even from all the experiences that you've lived. The spirit is the universal life force that animates all living things. It is not personal to you. It is the divine energy that breathes through everything. When you die, your soul returns to spirit, like a wave returning to the ocean. Now, the higher self is your soul at its most evolved, most aware state. It is the version of you that already knows your purpose, your path, and your potential. When you receive clear intuition, when you make a decision that feels profoundly right, that is your higher self guiding you. Think of it as this way: spirit is the ocean, the soul is the wave. The higher self is the wave at its full, most powerful potential. Connecting to your higher self through meditation and stillness is the most direct path to the clarity you'll ever find. Moving forward to the next question. Can I receive messages from a loved one who's passed away? Of course. And we all have those loved ones who've moved on and who want to be around us, who want to communicate with us, who want to guide us. And also, let me tell you that almost everyone experienced this, but no one admits it publicly. The connections between soul do not end with physical death. Energy cannot be destroyed, it just transforms. Your loved one's consciousness continues beyond the body. But how do they actually communicate? Most often through dreams, sometimes vivid, sometimes peaceful dreams, where you feel their presence rather than just see them. Another way is through signs, a specific song playing at a meaningful moment, a bird that behaves unusual, a scent with no source. They also communicate through thoughts, a sudden clear thought in their voice or a manner that you know didn't originate from you. Sometimes spirit guides also communicate through electricity, lights flickering, phones behaving strange, devices turning on or off. Here is how to open the channel. Speak to them out aloud or in your mind, it doesn't matter. Tell them you're open to receiving and then pay attention. Pray or ask them a question and ask for their signs. The messages are usually gentle, loving, and brief. But the biggest block to receiving these signs is grief. When we are consumed by grief, the channel becomes static. As you heal your grief, the connection becomes clearer. Remember, your loved ones have not gone too far. They are just in a different space and a different room and a different energy, but they are around you. Moving on to the next question. What is spiritual awakening and how do I know if I'm having one? A spiritual awakening is the moment or the process in which you begin to see reality differently. Not through your conditioned mind, but through your soul's eyes. And here's the thing most people don't realize. Awakening are rarely peaceful at the start. They often begin with disruption, a loss, a crisis, or a breakdown. Something that shatters the version of you that was sleepwalking through life. There are various signs to see whether you're awakening. For example, you suddenly find meaningless things intolerable, shallow. You disconnect with shallow conversations, dishonest relationships, work that has no purpose or fulfillment. You feel an unexplained longing for something you cannot name. You begin questioning everything you were taught to believe. Synchronicities multiply. You see patterns everywhere. You may feel more alone because you've changed and people around you haven't yet. You may feel hypersensitive because your nervous system is recalibrating to a higher frequency. This feeling is not a breakdown. This is a breakthrough, and you need to trust the process. What's falling away needed to fall. What's coming is worth everything, and you're going through it right now. Oh, another very intense question. Is it possible to have multiple soulmates in one lifetime? And the answer is going to blow your mind. Because, yes, it is not only possible, but it is the norm. The concept of one soulmate is one of the most limiting and damaging myths in our culture. It puts enormous pressure on one relationship to fulfill every spiritual, emotional, and practical needs you have. No single person can carry the weight. And here is the truth. Soulmates are your souls you have shared significant experiences with across multiple lifetimes. You carry a deep recognition with them, an immediate knowing when you meet. And they come in many forms. A soulmate can be a romantic partner, but equally a best friend, a mentor, a child, a parent. Sometimes they come for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. You may have already met several soulmates in this lifetime. The friend who appeared at your lowest point and changed everything. The teacher who saw something in you before you saw it in yourself. Each soulmate activates a different part of your growth. Each one helps you access a different dimension of who you are. Stop limiting this concept to romance. Your soul has a much richer, larger love story than that. Moving on to the next question. Why do I feel other people's emotions as if they were my own? That's because you are an empath. And that is not a disorder. It is a gift that has yet not been properly understood or managed. Empaths have a nervous system that is literally more sensitive than the average. You have what scientists call hyperactivated mirror neuron. It is the part of the brain that is responsible for feeling what others feel. You just don't observe someone's pain, you also land up absorbing it like a sponge and you think it's your own. In a room full of people, you instinctively know who's angry, who's grieving, who's hiding something. You feel the emotional temperature of every environment you enter. And yes, it can be a challenge without proper energetic boundaries. You carry others' emotions as if they were your own. You leave social interactions exhausted. You feel anxious for reasons you can't explain. You may have even spent years in therapy trying to understand emotions that were never yours to begin with. The practice is learning to feel without absorbing, to be present with someone's pain without taking it onto your body. Ask yourself before entering any space, what am I walking in with? And after leaving, ask, what needs to be released? Your sensitivity is a superpower, it just needs a container. Can negative people or environment permanently damage my energy? The word here permanently is important here because the answer is no. Energy is never permanently damaged, but yes, it can be severely depleted, contaminated, and suppressed, sometimes for years. If it is not actively addressed, chronically toxic environments, abusive relationships, high stress workplace, homes filled with conflicts create what I energetically call a scar tissue. The aura becomes dense, contracted, and guarded. Over time, this manifests as depression, chronic fatigue, anxiety, and physical illness. The longer you remain in a toxic environment, the deeper the imprint. A day in a negative space leaves a residue. Years in one changes the frequency of your entire field. But here is the profound truth about energy. It is infinitely resilient. Given the right condition, it will heal completely. Those conditions are removing yourself from toxic sources when possible, consistent spiritual cleaning, rebuilding through nature, grounding your energies through safe relationships, and most importantly, addressing the belief system that kept you in the damaging environment for so long to begin with. Moving on to the next question. What is shadow work and why is everyone talking about it? Shadow work is the most important and most avoided spiritual practice there is. And everyone is talking about it because it actually works. Here is the concept. Your shadow is everything about yourself that you've rejected, suppressed, or refused to acknowledge. The anger you were told was unacceptable, the ambition you were shamed for, the grief you were told to get over, the parts of yourself you decided were too much, too dark, or too vulnerable to show the world. What we suppress doesn't disappear, it goes underground. And from there, it runs our lives through self sabotage, through projections onto others, through patterns we cannot explain. Shadow work is the process of shining a light into those hidden places, of saying, I see you, I acknowledge you, and I integrate you. This is not about becoming dark, it is about becoming whole, because every shadow contains a gift. The anger you suppressed holds your boundaries. The ambition you were ashamed of holds your purpose. When you integrate your shadow, you stop projecting it onto others. You stop being triggered by things that mirror your own unacknowledged parts. Is it spiritually wrong to be ambitious and want wealth? Absolutely not. And I want to dismantle this toxic spiritual myth right now. Somewhere along the way, spirituality became associated with poverty consciousness. The idea that to be truly spiritual, you must reject material wealth. This is one of the most damaging misunderstandings in the wellness world. Wealth is energy. Money is simply a tool. And like all tools, its impact depends entirely on who's using it and how. Spiritually evolved, deeply conscious people with significant resources can do extraordinary good in the world. They can fund healing, create opportunities, support community, amplify messages that change life. Ambition in itself is neutral. It becomes toxic when one is driven by fear, ego, and by the need to prove worth. But ambition, driven by purpose, the desire to build something that is to serve, to create impact, to provide abundantly for yourself and others, that is sacred. The universe is infinitely abundant, and there is no spiritual price for choosing lack. Desire wealth with integrity, create it in alignment with your values, use it with generosity. Abundance is every soul's birthright, and you need to stop apologizing for wanting more. The next question is, how do spirit guides communicate with us, and how do I connect with mine? Spirit guides are non physical beings, our loved ones, who've agreed to support our soul's journey in this lifetime, even from the spiritual realm after they've moved on. And every person has them. Not everyone is tuned into receiving the messages. So let's understand how we can communicate. Primarily through intuition, that sudden, clear knowing that arrives without logic. Sometimes our spirit guides also communicate through dreams. Particularly, it could be those dreams where you feel that they are around you or they are trying to tell you something. Sometimes spirit guides also communicated with us through repetitive symbols or animals. It's like someone trying to tell you something, and you get that message from someone you know with a phone call or with an Instagram post. When it's a message from your spirit guide, you will know because there's a knowing that is connected to your soul. Now, how you connect with them first? Create stillness. Guides communicate in whisper and not shouts. You need to ask your guides what messages they have for you. If you're stuck in a situation, speak to them, ask for clarity, ask for support, and ask for a sign. And ask for a sign in a manner that you will understand. And then notice what appears in the following days. Meditation also clears your channel. Intentional silence is a great way for the guides to come through. So start spending time in silence either in the morning or evening, invoking your guides and spending time connecting or communicating with them. This question is the most frequently asked question. What does it mean spiritually when the same numbers keep appearing in my life? It means that the universe is trying to get your attention with precision. Numbers are one of the cleanest, clearest forms the divine is communicating to you because the universe wants you to connect with them. The universe is trying to get your attention so that whenever you see these numbers, it is a sign from the universe that you dive deeper and you go a lot more into spirituality. It's a sign of spiritual awakening. And it's time for you to embrace it and to accept it in your day to day life. Here's what some of the most common numbers mean. When you see double one, or combinations of one, your thoughts are being directly transmuted into reality. Watch your mind and be careful or mindful of what you're thinking. Combinations of two, double two, triple two, it means stay the course. You are aligned even if you can't see it. When you see combinations of threes, it means that you're fully supported by your guides and the universe. Ask for what you need with utmost clarity. When you see combinations of four, either double four, or triple four, it means that you're protected and you need to let go of fear. You are not alone on the journey, and the universe is watching your back. When you see combinations of five, it means that significant change is approaching, and you need to prepare to release what no longer serves you. When you see combinations of six, it is a reminder for you to rebalance. You may be too focused on the materialistic world at the expense of your spiritual growth, and it's time for you to shift the balance. When you see triple seven, double seven, or any combination of seven, it's calling for spiritual mastery and reward. You're exactly where you need to be, and that's the reward. You can always write this down, and whenever you see a number next, you can always come back to the meaning of it. Can meditation actually change your brain and your life, or is it just relaxation? It is one of the most well researched tools for neurological, psychological, and spiritual transformation that exist. Far more than relaxation, neuroscience have proven that consistent meditation literally rewires brain. It increases gray matter density in areas responsible for emotional regulation, decision making, and self awareness. It shrinks the amygdala, the brain's fear center. It also reduces cortisol levels and recalibrates the entire nervous system. But also, let me tell you that meditation spiritually goes much more deeper. Meditation creates the condition in which your higher self can finally be heard. Every time you sit in stillness, you are tuning out the frequency of fear and tuning into the frequency of the soul. Why do some people drain me and others fill me with energy? Because every person is a frequency, and frequencies either harmonize or conflict. Some people operate from an energy of expansion. They are curious, they are present, they are genuinely interested and emotionally regulated. When you spend time with them, you leave feeling more alive, more inspired, more yourself. These are what I call higher frequency relationships or people. Others operate from a frequency of contraction, chronic negativity, victimhood, manipulation, jealousy, or unprocessed fear. Their energy field pulls from the environment around them, including you. And these are the people, when you meet them, you leave feeling inexplicably tired, heavy, or even smaller than when you arrived. This is not about judging those people. Most are not draining you intentionally. They are simply running on empty themselves. But your energy is your most sacred resource, and protecting it is not cruelty, it is wisdom. Practice this before and after time with others. Check in with your body. Ask yourself, do I feel expanded or contracted? Lighter or heavier? Your body is the perfect energetic compass. Invest your time and energy in relationships or people that are reciprocal. the ones where both people give and both people receive. And this is what a healthy spiritual connection looks like. What is the pineal gland and why do spiritual people talk about this so much? The pineal gland is a tiny pine cone shaped gland in the center of your brain. It regulates melatonin and your sleep and also the wake cycles. Spiritually, it is one of the most profound subjects in the esoteric tradition. Across the ancient culture, the Egyptians called it the eyes of the Horus. It's also called the seat of the soul. In the Eastern world, it's also called the third eye, which is the energy center associated with intuition, clairvoyance, and high perception. It is important because the pineal gland is the physical interface between your brain and your spiritual perception. When it is healthy and activated, your intuition sharpens. Your dream life becomes vivid and instructional, and your ability to access higher state of consciousness expands significantly. When it is blocked or calcified or even broken, the perception of the higher consciousness dims. It becomes very difficult to connect with your own inner self. One feels brain fogged or one feels delusional. One may not really have a clear sense of clarity in anything and everything that they do. The third eye or the pineal gland is not a mystical fantasy. It is a physiological and a spiritual reality. And activating it can change the depth of your spiritual experience entirely. Hence, this pineal gland is very important for your spiritual growth. How do I forgive someone who has deeply hurt me without condoning what they did? Now, forgiveness is not approval. It is not reconciliation. It is not saying what happened was acceptable. It is not even something you do for others. Forgiveness is the decision to stop allowing someone else's actions to continue destroying your peace. When you hold on to unforgiveness, you are not punishing them. They have already moved on consciously or unconsciously. But you are the one carrying the weight. You are the one replaying it. You are the one whose body is flooded with stress hormones every time the memory surfaces. Unforgiveness is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to suffer. And it is important to understand how do you actually do it. You don't start by forgiving the action. You start by forgiving yourself for staying, for trusting, and for being hurt. That self compassion is the foundation for forgiveness. And then you separate the person from their behavior. Every human is operating from their own wounds and unconsciousness, and they do terrible things and they say terrible things. Understanding that context does not excuse it, but it humanizes it enough to release it. Forgiveness is a practice not for a moment. You may have to choose it 100 times before it settles. But every time you do it, you take back your own power. And that is when real forgiveness happens. When you've completely taken your power back and the person of the action or their behavior does not have any emotional trigger or charge in your energy field. And the last question for today's podcast. What does it mean when you feel a strong pull towards a person you've just met? You know that pull, that immediate inexplicable sense of recognition or connection is one of the most spiritually significant experiences you can have. And of course, there are several possible explanations for it. The first is the genuine soul recognition. You have known this person before in another lifetime, another context. Your soul carries a memory of each other, and the body responds to that memory instantly. This is often calm, warm, and it feels like coming home. The second is a karmic pull. This feels more like a compulsion than a recognition, an intensity that borders on obsession almost immediately. This is often a karmic connection, unfinished business that your soul is being called to complete. It's not always comfortable, it is not always safe, but it's there. And the third type, and let me tell you, this is where discernment is critical, is what I call trauma bonding. When someone mirrors your wounds, your unconscious mind can misread familiarity with destiny. This masquerades as a soul connection, but is actually a triggered wound responding to a familiar dynamic. Now, I'm sure the question is, how do you tell the difference? I will say, sit with it quietly. A genuine soul connection feels peaceful even in the uncertainty. A karmic pull feels urgent, almost feverish. And a trauma bond feels like need disguised as love. Trust the quality of the feeling, not just its intensity. I want to close this episode by giving you a practical tool you can use immediately, something that will change how you start and end every single day. And this is called the golden light cocoon. It is an energy sealing technique used by healers, psychics, and energy workers worldwide. And it literally takes under 2 minutes. And here is how you do it: you sit or stand comfortably and you close your eyes. You take 3 gentle deep breaths and fully arrive in your body. Now you can imagine a warm golden light beginning to gather just above the crown chakra or the tip of your head. Feel its warmth, and with each exhalation, allow this light to slowly pour down over you. It is like liquid gold moving in from the top of your head over to your face, down your neck, your shoulders, over your arms, chest, and back, moving into your hands all the way to the tip of your fingers, moving into your chest, your torso, your abdomen, the tip of your spine to the base of your spine, moving into your hips, your pelvis, your thighs, finally down from your knees to your feet to the tip of your toes. And as it moves through you, you'll set the intention and repeat in your mind, I seal my energy field. I release everything that is not mine. I call back every part of my energy that I have left behind today. Only love may enter my field, and only love may leave. Once the golden light has covered your entire body, visualize it hardening into a luminous cocoon around you. It is a protective, radiant shield that travels with you through the day. You can do this in the morning before you face the world. You can do it in the night to release everything that you've absorbed. But make sure that you do it consistently, because consistency is the key. This practice can be done daily for 5 minutes to 10 minutes in the morning or evening or both the times. Remember, you are the guardian of your own energy, and you need to take accountability and responsibility for your own energy well-being. I hope you enjoyed watching this podcast, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to stay updated of upcoming episodes. That's it for me. Up until my next Stay blessed and stay loved.